You've already walked past every item on this list. Maybe this week, a stalker leaned in near the register and said it plainly. Grab what you need now, because this same shelf won't look the same in a couple of months. 9 items. None dramatic, none medical advice, none doomsday, just the boring stuff that quietly decides whether a household works. And the last one isn't food or medicine at all. It's the box you'd use to store everything else, and it may get hit hardest. This isn't about shelves going empty. It's about the version that actually works quietly thinning out while everything still looks normal. The size, the brand, the country stamped on the box. 9 items, 9 completely different ways that happens. Some are food, some aren't even edible. Watch the pattern, not the product, and by the time you reach number 1, you'll see exactly how all 9 connect. Number 9. Toilet paper and paper towels. Start with something already in your bathroom closet right now. The roll hasn't gotten more expensive, it's gotten smaller, and the sticker didn't change to tell you. Forecasts on everyday paper goods point to a meaningful jump this year, and the people who track pricing will tell you something blunt. Companies shrink the package long before they touch the price, because nobody wants to be the brand that raised the number on the shelf. Stand 2 packs of the same brand side by side, 6 months apart, and count the sheets. That's the whole trick. Most shoppers never catch it, because the price tag is the only thing they're trained to check. The package looks the same from across the aisle. It isn't. Watch for "now contains" printed small near the barcode, or a roll that looks slightly thinner in the plastic. At home, that means the 12-pack that used to last a month starts running out 2 weeks early, and nobody in the house can explain why. This is the easy one: training wheels. The same shrink it before you raise it trick shows up again and again on this list, in places far less obvious than a bathroom shelf. Compare price per sheet, not price per pack, and buy only what you'd already be buying. If a closely tracked category like paper goods can quietly get smaller, it's worth asking what's happening to something nobody's checking at all. Number 8. Coffee. There's no backup plan for this one. You can swap a brand of pasta. You can't grow a bag of coffee in your backyard by next Tuesday. Most of the added import cost on coffee got rolled back in late 2025, and prices kept climbing anyway, because the higher costs were already sitting in inventory, already baked into contracts roasters signed months earlier. By this spring, the price of coffee had climbed close to 19% over the year before, relief headlines or not. Shoppers see the relief headline and assume the problem is over. It isn't. One major coffee-producing country still carries a steep exception on its instant coffee, and roasters everywhere are quietly doing what the paper towel companies did first, shrinking the bag, blending in cheaper beans, holding the price steady on a package that weighs less than it did last year. At home, that's the can that empties faster than it should. The same number of dollars buying fewer cups of an absolute daily non-negotiable for most households. There's no good substitute waiting in the wings. The smart move is boring. Grab 1 extra bag of whatever you already drink and start checking price per ounce instead of price per bag. Coffee is a habit item. The next one isn't about comfort at all. It's about whether anything in your house with a battery in it still works when you actually need it. Number 7. Batteries. Nobody buys batteries until the remote goes dead, or worse, until the lights go out and the flashlight in the drawer does nothing. That's the whole problem with this item. It's the cheapest thing on this entire list, and that's exactly why it's the easiest to forget. Battery components sit inside. The same layered cost increases hitting almost anything built from imported electronics parts right now. And the pattern repeats across different battery types in different ways. The specifics shift depending on what's inside the cell, but the direction doesn't. Costs stack. Walk the battery aisle, and the early signal isn't an empty shelf. It's a multi-pack that's quietly smaller for the same price, or a generic brand that used to sit next to the name brand and doesn't anymore. A full-looking shelf can still be thinner than it was a year ago. At home, this is the drawer with 3 remotes, a flashlight, and a smoke detector that all stopped working at once, on the one night it mattered. Keep a small rotating stock in the sizes your household actually uses, not a stockpile. Just enough that you're never the person standing in a dark hallway shaking a dead flashlight. This is a tiny part. The next item isn't tiny at all. It's a whole product that can vanish by brand and country, while the box next to it on the same shelf barely moves. Number 6. Imported pasta. Stand in the pasta aisle long enough, and you'll watch two nearly identical boxes have two completely different futures. One is made 2 states away. The other crossed an ocean. And a small group of major exporters behind some of the most familiar imported pasta brands is now facing a combined import cost approaching, in some cases past, double the price of the product itself, starting this year. That's not a small markup. That's the kind of number that makes a familiar box either disappear from the shelf entirely or jump high enough that shoppers assume it's been mispriced. Most people never check where pasta comes from, because pasta feels like the most interchangeable item in the store. It isn't. One region, a handful of producers, controls more of that particular shelf than most shoppers would ever guess. At home, the consequence is small but annoying. The brand your family actually likes is suddenly gone or absurdly priced, mid-recipe, mid-meal plan, with no warning. The fix is simple. Glance at the country of origin printed on the box before you assume a pantry staple is safe from this. Domestic isn't automatically worse. It's just less exposed. And that exposure isn't limited to food. The next item is something almost nobody thinks of as an import at all. Number 5. Plastic storage bags and wrap. Here's a fact that sounds unrelated until it isn't. The bag you use to seal leftovers and the bottle of pain reliever in your medicine cabinet start from the same barrel of oil. People who study global shipping risk have flagged exactly that petroleum-based household products sitting in the same risk lane as certain medicine ingredients, exposed to the same shipping choke points halfway around the world. Nobody thinks of a sandwich bag as an energy product. That's why this one slides past almost everyone. The signal is subtle, a smaller box for the same price. Film that feels thinner between your fingers. A generic brand that's harder to find than it used to be. At home, this isn't really about sandwiches. It's about whether produce makes it through the week before it spoils, whether leftovers actually get eaten instead of thrown out, whether a freezer full of food stays usable. This item is packaging in name only. What it actually does is keep an entire food storage system functioning day to day. Keep a modest backstock of whatever size your kitchen actually reaches for. Nothing dramatic. Just enough that you're not improvising with foil and rubber bands the week this gets harder to find. That same hidden ingredient idea, one shared weak point underneath products that look nothing alike, is about to show up everywhere, all at once. Number 4. Generic and store brand staples. Here's the pattern underneath everything you've heard so far, finally named directly. The cheap version disappears before the expensive one does, not because anyone's targeting it, because it's the thinnest. Retailers track this constantly, and the numbers are blunt. Over a recent year-long stretch, the cheapest version of a product, across categories, climbed in price at roughly double the rate of the premium version sitting next to it, close to 5%, versus closer to 2.5%. A generic brand has almost no room to absorb rising costs. A premium brand has margin to spare, so when the squeeze comes, it lands on the affordable shelf first, while the name brand barely flinches. That paper towel trick from number 9. That coffee bag from number 8. Same mechanism, just with a different label on it. Most shoppers assume the generic is always the safe budget choice. It usually is until the gap between the store brand and the name brand quietly narrows, and the habit of always buy the cheap one stops actually saving what it used to. The fix costs nothing. Compare unit price between the store brand and the name brand each trip instead of assuming. The households leaning hardest on the cheap version are the ones who feel this first. Now take that same idea and drop it into a system where one missing piece can stop an entire process, not just cost more. Number 3. Canning lids. 100 jars on the counter, washed, ready, full of produce that won't wait. And the one part that actually makes any of it usable, the flat metal lid, not the jar, not the ring, is the box that's empty. This has happened before. A canning lid shortage in 1975 was serious enough to drag manufacturers in front of Congress. It's happened again more recently. Shelves stripped bare for stretches at a time. One of the only major American lid brands is a small piece of a much larger company, and reports on imported alternatives describe thinner metal, less reliable seals, lids that look fine in the box and fail in the jar. Jars and rings get reused for years, so they're easy to find and easy to assume you're covered. The lid can't be reused safely, ever, which makes it the one part of the whole system that has to be replenished every single season without fail. Miss it, and the consequence is exactly what it sounds like. Ripening produce on the counter with nowhere safe to go before it spoils. Buy lids specifically, every season, before you need them, not, "I have jars, I'm set." Owning the jar was never the hard part. What you're about to hear next isn't seasonal at all. It's something pulled out of a cabinet on an ordinary Tuesday night. Number 2. Children's and household pain relievers. The pharmacy shelf can look completely stocked and still not have what your family actually reaches for. That's the uncomfortable part of this one. Close to 95% of the active ingredient behind one of the most common over-the-counter pain relievers comes from a single country, and generic drug makers already operate on margins too thin to absorb much of a shock. New pharmaceutical-specific import costs are scheduled to phase in around September, a few weeks past the very date this list is built around, which means the real pressure may land right after most people assume the warning window already closed. To be clear, this isn't medical advice, and it isn't a call to hoard. It's a call to be the household that already has what it normally uses, rotated, not expired, when everyone else starts looking. Pharmacy shelves rarely look empty. They look identical until the bottle is suddenly the wrong size, or the price has quietly doubled. At home, this is a sick kid at 2 in the morning and a bottle that isn't the one your family trusts. Check expiration dates. Buy the size and format you already use. Ask a pharmacist about generic equivalents instead of guessing in the aisle. Everything so far has come out of a cart, a cabinet, a pantry shelf. The last item is the thing that holds every single one of them. Number 1. Plastic storage bins. Here's the irony nobody sees coming. You could do everything right on the first 8 items: stock, the paper goods, the coffee, the batteries, the pasta, the bags, the generics, the lids, the medicine, and still have nowhere sealed, stable, or pest-proof to actually keep any of it. Furnishings and household goods. The broad category that includes molded plastic storage has shown some of the steepest tracked price increases of any category measured this year, steeper in some readings than categories people worry about far more, like clothing. Most of what fills that category is built overseas, and most of it is exactly the kind of item nobody thinks to check until they're standing in the aisle needing one. Shoppers treat bins as an afterthought, something you grab on the way to the register, not a system component. But the box you'd use to store everything else on this list is sitting in the same exposed category as almost everything else here, just quieter and easier to ignore because it's empty. You don't need a stockpile of bins. You need a few solid ones, sized for what's actually in your pantry, bought while they're still cheap and boring. The cheapest, most forgettable item on this entire list is the one every other item quietly depends on. Put it all together, and it's one shelf, told 9 different ways. Paper goods shrink before the price moves. Coffee has no substitute waiting in the wings. A battery is the small part deciding if anything in the house actually works. An imported staple can vanish by country, not by category. A sandwich bag and a pain reliever share a hidden risk point. Neither one looks like it should. The cheap version always feels the squeeze first. A canning lid is the one piece nobody thinks to replace until the counter's full of produce. A pharmacy shelf can look complete and still be missing exactly what your family needs, and the box meant to hold all of it might cost more than what's inside. None of this requires panic. It requires getting 2 or 3 boring items ahead of everyone else, while they're still cheap and still easy to find. Pick one item from this list on your next trip. Check the format and the country of origin before you check the price. Which one of these 9 have you already noticed changing at your own store? Put it in the comments. I read every one.